Hello, York County. And because we have another statewide candidate on the show today, hello, South Carolina. You all know what a comptroller does, right? Because we've been through this before. What's it? You forgot? Okay, don't worry. We're going to get a refresher. Our guest today is Bruce Cole, Democratic candidate for Comptroller General for South Carolina. And you're going to get to know him very well in this next hour, I guarantee. So let's get to it. From the studio in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Fort Mill, South Carolina, in the shadow of Charlotte, the buckle of the Bible Belt, and the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the York County Democratic Party's YouTube show and podcast. We call it YCDP TV. And on the Zoom with me is Bruce Cole, candidate for Comptroller for the whole state of South Carolina, our second candidate for Comptroller General. Bruce, welcome to YCDP TV.
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for inviting me. Hi, everybody.
Glad to have you here. York County, this is Bruce Cole. Now, we did a show with your competition, Tiffany, and we learned that the Comptroller is, I'm going to call it a technical job, not very political. It requires a lot of expertise, a lot of background. She called it the state's accountant. On your website, you suggest that you think it should be maybe a little more than that, but that's just a teaser, everybody. We're not going to talk about that yet. We got stuff to do. And I also want everybody to get to know you, get to know your background, get to know your expertise, get to know you as a person. All of that is coming up. But first, and the folks that have seen these interviews before are cringing now because they know what's coming up next. It's the civics lesson. The civics lesson just got a whole lot more complicated in the past week. I am talking about redistricting. So we're in the middle of the South Carolina Republicans' effort to redraw the state's congressional map. And let me make this clear right away, Bruce. It's got nothing to do with the Comptroller General's primary election. You're not in that fight. Your election, your primary is going to be June 9th, no matter what. But it creates confusion among voters. And I think that's part of the plan. The Republicans want all 7 of South Carolina's congressional districts to be heavily Republican. Right now, they've only got 6 of them. So they're greedy. Well, they're doing what Trump told them to do. The primary, which includes the congressional election, is already underway. Absentee voting, mail-in voting, has been happening for a couple weeks. Early voting starts tomorrow as we record this. We're recording on Monday, May 25th. And the early voting would have normally started today, but it's going to be a day late because today is Memorial Day, so no early voting today, but it starts tomorrow. The General Assembly, best I can tell, is a couple of days away at best from approving whatever new map they approve, and we don't even know what that map is going to be like. If they succeed, and there are some efforts underway to stop the whole thing, but if they succeed, there's going to be a separate primary in August just for the congressional election. And that's not to mention a runoff election. That's going to be on June 23rd. That's for races where no candidate in the primary gets more than 50% of the vote. Then the top 2 will be in that runoff. We don't have very many Democratic candidate elections where there are more than 2 people running. So we probably, as Democrats, won't have very many. Maybe around the state there are some that will. But there's a bunch of folks in Republican primaries that there's going to be runoffs for those, no question. Okay, so June 9th, June 23rd, and then sometime in August. That's a lot of bringing people to the polls in a very short time. That is hard to do. So how does that affect you, Bruce? Comptroller General is a statewide office. It's not affected by the congressional primary, no matter when that happens, except the Democratic Party in South Carolina, Democratic officials are urging Democratic voters to flood the polls with early voting on Tuesday. And if you're seeing this after Tuesday and you haven't voted yet, vote as early as you can. Here's the theory. Getting more votes into the hopper already cast in the primary from early votes before the General Assembly throws their redistricting monkey wrench into the gears in a couple of days will do what? It's going to make the Republicans look worse. Yeah, I think it'll do that. Maybe it'll give the few Republicans who oppose this last minute partisan attempt to throw the congressional election, maybe it'll give those guys a little leverage, a little more backbone. Maybe it's going to make it fail completely. I don't know. Maybe add weight to a lawsuit. That's a lot of maybes, but that's the plan. So, and that's what we're just going to have to deal with. So here we go. Let's go back to the civics lesson. Bruce, you are running for the office of South Carolina Comptroller General. That's a statewide office. Obviously, it is an elected office. I'm not sure why. I asked Tiffany about this when we talked to her. I'll ask about that a little bit more in a little while. But there are 8 statewide elective offices. You're going for one of them. They all have 4-year terms. They are all elected in non-presidential election years. And I got that exactly backwards in the 2 previous shows I did with statewide candidates. I knew better. It was my Ron Burgundy moment. If you're out there watching the show and if you watch those interviews and you missed this too, then it's on you. Nobody pointed it out to me. I was saying that these elections happen in presidential years. They are in the non-presidential years. It was my Ron Burgundy moment. I had it wrong in my notes. I cut and pasted from one show to the next. I had it wrong then. I just read the words. I missed it in the editing as well. I didn't catch it until I was watching the playback. So anyway, that's on me. I got it fixed now. This is not a non-presidential election year. This is when we elect all of these guys. And here's your quiz. This group of officers for the state, that's the governor, secretary of state and stuff, what are they known as a group?
I think the phrase that's used is constitutionally elected officers.
Yes, excellent. That's what they are, constitutional officers. In North Carolina, they call them the Council of State. Interesting because they are separately elected, and they're not necessarily the governor's guys. In many cases, they may be, but they won't necessarily be the governor's guys. If you get elected, you won't be the governor's.
That is the goal, though. I mean, there is legislation that's on the table right now. I don't know if people are aware of it, of making this an appointed position.
Okay.
And so this could all be for naught.
Well, it won't be appointed before this election. So I mean, you still have to go through it, and then afterwards, we'll see. Are you in favor of it being appointed?
Well, not necessarily, because I am feeling that it should be a non-political position.
So maybe a nonpartisan election.
Yeah, I think it's important though that this position have institutional knowledge that can be carried on, because when you're changing the team on any kind of regular basis, you're kind of starting from scratch, and you're losing some continuity. In some cases, with our government, for example, currently, maybe that's a good thing. But I think that and maybe this office, for some, maybe it's designed to be purely titular. But where we are now, we need some clear leadership that can both change the operational dynamics as well as the culture.
All right. So maybe it should be a longer than 3-year term and not be one of those offices that gets recycled every 3 years. So the other constitutional officers, continuing with our civics lesson, they're the governor and lieutenant governor. They're elected on the same ticket. Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Attorney General, State Superintendent of Education, Commissioner of Agriculture, and then Comptroller General. You do have a primary component. We'll talk a primary opponent. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So you're going to be in the primary. The primary election, as we mentioned, is Tuesday, June 9th. There's 2 weeks of early voting. We're, as you watch this, essentially in the middle of it now. Absentee voting, that's mail-in voting. For those who qualify, not everybody qualifies, but it's not hard. The general election, which seems like it is now so far away with everything going on, is Tuesday, November 3rd. And it will come upon us before we know it. But right now it looks like a long ways away. Plenty of time for more shenanigans between now and then. And finally, I want to just give a little plug to our York County Democratic Party website. This is it, yorkscdems.org is the official URL. We got a couple others. The easiest one to remember is YCDP.us. And we put a particular effort into detailing everything that's going on with this election. All the candidates are here. So stop by. If you need a refresher on what's going on, stop by our website here in York County. And if anybody else around the state wants to look at it, you will see candidates that are going to be on a York County ballot, not necessarily your ballot. And Bruce, that's the end of the civics lesson. Everyone is issuing a sigh of relief, the end of the civics lesson.
Well, Gary, I think the civics lesson goes beyond just what you're saying, though.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I think the redistricting, you know, probably should be done by an independent body. I think that's what we used to do. I mean, we basically, thrown in the towel on that. Right now, the Republicans are dictating the rules of the game, and I think we should have a strategy for um, making sure that that doesn't happen, rather than being on our heels and being reactive. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, to get that done, we would need state legislators in the General Assembly who are willing to make that happen. And with the current makeup, the overwhelming Republican Party makeup in our state assembly, which is not redistricting itself, by the way. It's just redistricting the congressional candidates. I don't see them going for, nationwide, Democratic states that have Democratic legislatures, have leaned toward making independent redistricting the thing. And this year, they're all being forced to join the race to the bottom to redistrict as many of their districts Democratic, just to combat the Republicans' grab for more congressional power. So it's sad. I don't know where the off switch is going to be on that. I hope we find one, but it's looking sad right now. Anyway,
Well, your sadness is, I think, because of a lack of leadership. I think that's the bottom line. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I mean, we should all be clear with regards to strategy and objectives, and all be pushing in the same direction rather than just be confused.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable with that, but it's another conversation.
It is.
Maybe an offline conversation.
Well, once we get past this election, maybe we can refocus our energy on saying, "Oh, that was stupid." Now let's see if we can get back to some sanity on our elections and not keep this race to the bottom going. I hope so. It's your turn. Now we get to know a little bit more about Bruce Cole. The question everybody asks, I'm sure, whenever you meet them out there in campaign land is, what's a comptroller general? What is that job? What do you do?
Right now, the job is being the state's accountant. We get all the financials in from revenues from all different sources, federal and taxes, grants, whatever, and we get all the distributions coming from all of the 98 odd agencies that come through. And we're the keeper of the public purse, and the public trusts us to put together a summary of all of those transactions in the form of financial statements, and to report them in a uh, reasonable, safe manner. I think the problem is that the job requires more than being an accountant. You really need to be a CFO, and that's my goal in coming to the office. Not just someone who keeps score, you know, but someone who actually coaches as well.
On your website, the language you put on the website is that the Comptroller General's office should not be passive. It should have a strong, independent, it should be a strong, independent watchdog for taxpayers. I take it they're not really doing that now.
Well, Gary, I don't know if you've seen the financials for the state or for any of the agencies,
No, that
or
gives me a
gone to
headache.
I know it gives everybody a headache. The information is not geared towards citizens. It's geared towards other accountants and bond analysts. And at the end of the day, that takes the power away from citizens to gain trust, get verification that their funds that they are giving to the state through taxation and fees and the like are being used to their benefit. So, I have two uh, not only philosophical but practical agenda items on my campaign, on my platform. One is a campaign to create public value that is measurable, and the other is to create civic wealth that's tied to the public value that's created. So we're hoping, and I can go into detail more about that, but if people go to our website, coal4sc.com, I have plans there for each of those initiatives, and some other reading material if people want to stay up late at night. But that talks about what we intend to do.
Okay, let me show people your website, coal4nc.com. And this is a quick look at what's on there.
That's SC, not NC.
My old North Carolina roots are showing.
Yeah.
Coal4sc.com, just to be super clear about it. And there is a lot there, but sure, let's because what you're talking about is a little bit more than what it seems to be in the job already. How do you do creating wealth for South Carolina?
Yeah, well, I think part of there's a long term and the short term view. The short term view is to help people understand how we're doing, and I've already started pulling together some of my contacts and meeting new people who are financial analysts and financial advisors to be a volunteer team uh, to work with what we call the program, just quote unquote, financial literacy South Carolina. And through a collaboration with the state and local governments, we'll create a platform for helping people to understand how to understand the financials of the state. And at the same time, we look at using analytics that can basically translate what we're doing um, into a tool that people can use to understand how we've done relative to the prior year and relative to our strategy. Um, I think in many cases, our agencies don't necessarily have a strategy. For a simple strategy for us might be for the Comptroller General's office might be, for example, using less paper and touching invoices less. Because every time we use paper, when back in the old days, it was like $25 an invoice. We handled tens of thousands of invoices. We had no measure of to what extent we've electrified that process, using ACH and other electronic means of paying bills and sending out invoices. Right.
Yeah.
Just having a measure of that shows that over time we're becoming more efficient. We have no metrics that show how we're becoming more efficient, less wasteful, or any number of other measures that might help folks understand how we're doing better.
Okay. So understanding what's going on leads to doing things better, which leads to saving some money.
And empowerment of the citizens.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you say that the office should be a strong, independent watchdog for taxpayers, in my mind, that means, well, maybe there's some shenanigans. Are there things to watch out for?
Well, they clearly are. I mean, always things to watch out for. I mean, we're human beings, right?
Yeah.
We're not perfect. If we were perfect, we'd be in another place. We'd be in heaven, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we do need guardrails. The case with the treasurer's office and the misunderstanding of the $1.8 billion there. It's caused a lot of consternation. The taxpayers paid $11 million to resolve that, taxpayers' money that we shouldn't have had to pay. I mean, Alexis Partners did find that there were, some accounting errors, and I kind of thought that would be the case earlier. I mean, when I first heard about it, that probably somebody just didn't when they made the transition, they probably just didn't do the other side of the accounting transaction, and so they recommended that reverse $1.6 billion of that, and for the other 200 million, they found that was actually cash, and they put that in the bank. So, that's nice. I'm glad they did that. I mean, that was important. They also gave us a number of recommendations that we should do. But my consternation is about how about the other 3.5 billion with a B that was found to be an error that caused Mr. Ekstrom to quit his job in disgrace, and nobody's talking about that, you know. I think part of me feels that the exercise with Alex Partners was performance. You still haven't gotten to the source of the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm recommending a forensic audit first of all. Well, as soon as I get so what happened, and comprehensively to the quote unquote $5.3 billion for one.
Yeah.
And then and one last thing, we had a whole sense we had a whole since 2015 the auditors were saying that we have bad controls, internal controls. And although the changes have been made under the guidance of Alex Partners, there's no indication that those controls that the auditors found that were lacking have been put into place. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Question.
that's a pretty deep dive. I
I'm
was
sorry.
familiar with the 1.8.
I am an accountant. I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's like when I go get my taxes done. They talk and talk and talk, and I go, where do I sign?
Yeah, right.
I was familiar with the 1.8 billion, which, as I understood it, in my limited capacity to actually understand this sort of stuff, was literally an accounting error that accumulated over the course of, I don't know, maybe a decade. Somebody not really doing their job between the comptroller and the treasurer, and not coming clean about what was going on until it finally got so bad that it came out. No money was actually missing. No money was stolen. No bank accounts were padded in a corrupt sense. But it was bad because if we think we got $1.8 billion and we don't got it, maybe we already spent it, because we tend to spend things pretty fast when we get the money. So I don't know. Is the extra 3.5 billion? I have not heard about that at all.
Nobody has. But go look at the documents that are already public. Look at the fact that the SEC is currently investigating the state of South Carolina, the Office of the Comptroller General. for that very reason, because they feel that if we've been misstating our financials for these past 15 years, that we may have been uh, guilty of misleading the public when we go out with our bond offerings. So this could really affect our bond
So, th-
rating and could affect interest rates. It could affect the taxes we have to pay to fill the gap.
so more than just a simple, oh, we screwed up, and okay, I'm going to quit because I screwed up. It has more implications than that. How, as a political matter, as an election matter, do you get past voters like me going, I don't want to hear it. Oh, it hurts, and get people to pay at least enough attention to say, okay, we got to elect somebody else who can give us a better representation of what's going on financially in the state. How do you do that? How do you sit here looking at your camera and say, here's what I'm going to do for you, electorate?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, we need a forensic audit. It's not clear that Alex Partners actually did that. And a forensic audit goes deeply past the just the typical audit. It looks at transactions and the controls and the items that relate to transactions. It's far more comprehensive. So getting down to it is going to be important. Changing I suspect that the CGIS that we use, EIS that we use, is outdated as well. We're using uh, 20th century technology in a 21st century world, and we probably need to change that out. Thirdly, you know, we need to, as I say, have all of those items that have been cited already as control weaknesses cleared. I have no indication. I've seen no indication that that's been done. Looking at the subsequent financial statements. Thirdly of all, uh, or is that fourthly? Thirdly of all, I think it's important that we have analytics showing how we're doing, um, and based on specific objectives. How are we? How is the taxpayer getting value for money? But we can talk about that later.
When you say forensic audit, I start to think of the word criminal. Was there anything criminal about this?
Gary, there's always something criminal. No. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. I mean, somebody's going to be padding. Somebody's going to be doing something. I mean, we're human. I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's politics.
I'm not trying to point the finger, but there's that we have a history. You know, I mean, a classic example, again, nobody talks about this stuff because the people in power, it's not in their best interest. For example, I've got a letter that from the Secretary of Education, Secretary of Agriculture, about the South Carolina state. The state hasn't matched South Carolina's state federal grant for the past 20 years, and under the Biden administration, they said we owe. I have the letter to Henry Masters. We owe South Carolina State $500 million. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to talk about that. That's a misallocation of funds. I mean, that sort of thing happens all the time. I mean, because people in power, you know, I mean, I just gave a presentation in Lagos, Nigeria. People in power, be it if it's a tribal thing or a political thing, people in power are going to want to look after their own. And so a forensic audit will look at where did the money go, all the money, and did it go where it was supposed to go? Okay. And if it didn't, why didn't it? Is it a control issue or is it a lapse in some other area of human nature? So that's the purpose of the forensic audit. The financial audit doesn't go that far. We just want to say, did you collect all the money? Okay, great. We tied that out. Did you spend all the money? We tied that out. Great. So it looks clean to me. Let's look at financials. Okay, do the finances balance? Does it make sense? Great, looks good to me. Let's publish the financials. Okay, good. But the a lot can be hidden in those numbers, and that's just a matter of it's the nature of the beast. Yeah.
And that tells me what that watchdog thing is all about,
Yes, sir.
because that's where you're doing it. How is the comptroller job different from treasurer?
Well, the treasurer job is a little bit more specific. The treasurer handles the cash. That's your job. We get cash in for from whatever purposes, and we use cash. We need cash sometimes that we don't have, so we might have to go out to the bonds market. Um, we may have extra cash that needs to work harder. So if we have cash on hand, we might want to put it in some kind of an investment account. I mean, that's again the treasurer's job. We might have cash obligations in the future that we have to um, account for example, the retirement system. So we need to invest that money so that everybody who's going to be retired over the next X number of years, make sure that we have enough saved or available, which we don't right now. I mean, again, that's another issue, but that people don't really talk about. We take it for granted. Well, it's okay, but we've got a 20 based on what documents you read, we've got a $23 billion a deficit, money that we don't have that we or that's due to payments for retirees. We have a number of current and future issues that we just don't, if we don't know about them and don't talk about them, we just accept them as they are. Then when the check comes due, we scramble and we're reactive. And God forbid, we don't deliver because we weren't prudent.
Do I understand correctly that the state is not allowed to run a deficit? It has to have a balanced budget every year?
Um, I don't think that's true. I mean, it's politically, yes.
And in some
I
states,
mean,
it's required in their
but but but
constitutions.
but in reality, we don't. I mean, we've got it. We've got to let. We've got to. There's a group. You can look at the report group called um, Truth in Accounting. They're a watchdog group, and they look at all the states. And we got a letter grade of D because we don't balance our budget.
Yeah, that was a
We
letter
spend
grade
about
of D. D as in dog.
D as in dog.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see any Fs or E's when I looked at looked at it. I didn't look at all the states, but we got a letter D because we spend about $51 billion every year, and we bring in about $37 billion. So there's a $14 billion deficit. No, we're not balancing, and that deficit is either going to be filled by the feds. Right now, we're still getting COVID money. Okay. And that's going to run out pretty soon. And if the, and or we go to the bond markets and borrow it. And then we're in the same situation that the federal government is in, kicking the can down the road.
So it sounds to me like,
God forbid, we raise taxes
oh, can't do
and
that.
wipe it out. I mean, God forbid,
Yeah. Hey, wait a minute. You're a Democrat. You're in favor of raising taxes. Just by being a Democrat. That's what the
I'm in
Republican
favor.
ads say, anyway.
Yeah, I'm in favor of being having a responsible government.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
Just like you run your household, you want to have a balanced budget. You want to have a government that's responsible as well.
So the background for the person running for treasurer and for running comptroller are going to be similar. And I don't know if very many people out there noticed, but as I was putting together the data for our website, I saw that you had initially filed to run in this election for treasurer. And then while the filing period was still open, you withdrew that and switched it to comptroller. Why the change?
Yeah. Well, I know Curtis Loftus. I've been when I taught at USC, I would invite him and other financial leaders to my Finance 101 class, and they were great. And they hired some of my kids out of the class, and so and Curtis and I have have a friendship that has grown over time, and I learned a lot about his office. I know
He's the current treasurer.
the current treasurer. And I felt that having been a treasurer, when I was at the Boston Public Library, I was a CFO, but we didn't have a treasurer, so default I was the treasurer. So I understood a lot of the things that were going on in that position, and I was especially interested in the unclaimed, what is it, unclaimed assets or fund that he has. It's grown to $1 billion. And after talking to him, most of that is African American folks that have not don't realize that there's money there. It's that they need to call up and get the money that granddad left in his insurance policy or whatever. So I felt comfortable with that, and then and I filed.
Let me make that real for people for just a second, because I got a notice that it wasn't for me, it was for an estate that I was handling for a relative who passed away, that there was unclaimed property in North Carolina. And they didn't tell me how much, and they didn't tell me very much about it, but they just said it existed. And in fact, I got this notice from a third party, from a company whose job it is to find this stuff and then notify people and take care of it for them, and I'm sure they take a cut. And I aced them out of it, and I went straight to the North Carolina unclaimed property people and said, I understand there's some unclaimed property here. And they said, there is. Here, fill out these forms with the documentation that you have that you're in charge of this estate and what you might know about these. It was 2 insurance policies. And I filled it out, and I never expected to get a penny. And after it took a couple of months, after a few months, that estate collected over $2,000 from unclaimed property, from some insurance policies that this person had that they had never collected on when they reached maturity. Unclaimed property is a real thing.
And that's because and plus being a treasurer is a little bit more sexy. I did work at
Oh yeah, that's
Wall
what we were
Street.
talking about. Why you wanted to be treasurer and why you switched.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I switched, I was in Florida and I had two, believe it or not, 2 concurrent conferences that I was attending and presenting at, and I got a call from Jamie Harrison, and Jamie asked me to change to the Comptroller General, and because we didn't have anybody of my qualifications who could fill that campaign slot. And I told him, "Hey, Jamie, I'm a team player, and if that's what if that's what the team wants, that's what I'll do." And so that, and as soon as I got back from I think I got back from my conferences on Sunday, and Monday was the last day to change. So I was in there, and Monday at noon is when the office closed, and I filed, and I filed the change, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay, so being a good soldier for the Democratic Party. Your opponent,
Absolutely.
Tiffany Boozer, actually works in the comptroller's office. And it sounds like Jamie Harrison asked you to do something from his side of the party, and she was encouraged to run for the office by the current comptroller, who is not intending. He's a Democratic appointee, and he's not intending to run, and he encouraged her. So different parts of the party.
I don't know if that's a true statement. I think that he's. I know that Tiffany wanted somebody, felt strongly that somebody should run. So I don't know if Mr. Gaines was actually, but if he was, God bless him. That's a good thing. I'm glad that she stepped up, and that's another reason why I stepped up.
Yeah.
To run it all, because if that would get other people to come out of the woodwork, that would be fun.
Yep. And when we mentioned your name in her interview, she said Bruce is a very qualified person. So she had good things to say about you, and this is not a mudslinging campaign.
Absolutely. I mean, if I were to get the position, I'll be working with Tiffany.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I want to do that?
Yeah, she's still in the her job as a auditor, I think, in the office. Yeah. All right. So this comes down to a lot, as people are watching this, who they feel comfortable with as they meet the person. So let's meet the person a little bit more. Let's talk about your background a little bit. what where did you start out, and what kind of education did you go through, and what has been your employment background up until this point?
How much time do we have, Gary?
As long as you want. Long as you want. I have a lot of hard drive space here.
Listen to you. Uh, yeah, I'm originally from Lawrence, a small country town called Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and I've been blessed with the best education in the world. Went to a school called the Lawrenceville School. It's top notch. Um, I've got a degree in economics. I got a master's degree in accounting. I got a MBA in finance. I got a PhD in planning, and I got all of that, you know, because a lot of people were um, promoting me and confident in me and wanted were invested in my success. Um, I, I've been washed by many waters. Uh, I've worked for a think tank early on out of college called Apt Associates. Uh, we did the evaluating federal policies, and it was a dream job. I mean, it was a company of the future. I mean, and I learned so much from all of these experiences. I'll just run through them because it'll make me cry when I think about all the wonderful experiences. But um, because I wanted a master's degree, everybody around me had PhDs, and again paid my way to go to school. I said, I thought, well, let me get do an accounting degree quickly. Maybe
We'll
that'll
just we'll just
get me.
yeah, we'll just get that accounting degree out of the way and then keep on moving on. You didn't mention what all the schools were. The MBA was from Stanford, small school out west. Uh, the PhD was from Clemson. The your BA was from Harvard. You're a
Yeah, in
Harvard
economics. I
man.
mean, I studied under three Nobel Prize winners. Man. I mean, I got the bomb education, no
Yeah.
question about it. And
Can I ask can I ask a real personal question? I mean, you're a black
uh,
guy. This is not easy for a black guy.
what's not easy for a black guy?
Getting to all these schools, I mean, you got hurdles to overcome that I would. First of all, I never did anything like that. But you got hurdles to overcome that other people don't.
Um, Well, you need to meet. I got my 50th reunion coming up next week, so you need to come and meet my classmates. I'm not a one-off, baby. Maybe in South Carolina, but I've got it like that for sure. And
Okay.
and people, with those endowments, God's blessings with me with those endowments, I was able to, you know, after the accounting, I got the MS in accounting, and worked for Pete Marwick. I was able to audit some of the biggest financial institutions in New York. That was it. That was a. I mean, they work you like a dog, but I mean, 80-hour weeks and whatnot during busy season. I mean, can you believe that? But nonetheless, it was a lot of fun, especially for a single guy in New York, right? You can only imagine. And some of my friends from college were working in Wall Street and some of the investment banks and whatnot, and that was good. We had fun, learned a lot. But I quickly understood that that accounting, that controller, um, um, that partner track was not for me, and applied to Stanford and got in. That was a blessing. And Exxon actually paid for my schooling there. Met some of the again, another set of wonderful people. I mean, Penny Pritzker was in my class. At Harvard, John Roberts was in my class. Bobby Kennedy was in my class. I mean, I could just rattle them off, all the folks that you would probably know that I went to school with. And being introduced to Silicon Valley, I mean, you can't help but fall in love with that energy, especially back in the dot-com era. I know the guy who invented the term .com. I mean, I worked for just a variety of companies adding value. I mean, good in because of my basic preparation, accounting is more than just a technology. It's also a language, and allows me to work within a wide variety of organizational environments. And so a good example, well, I worked for AT&T. That was a blessing. I needed to know, in my mind, my big deficit was that I wasn't familiar with technology as much as I wanted to be. And when AT&T made me an offer I couldn't refuse, they let me run a $50 million international business. Uh, and just dream job after dream job. I mean, then after that, I said, look, I want to go back. That was in New Jersey. I wanted to go back to California because that's where I left my heart in San Francisco.
What brought you? Oh, go ahead.
and and I ran a AT&T's business in the Bay Area. I mean, hey, the San Francisco 49ers were a client. I was the guy who ran their phone systems. I was the guy on the field with Joe Montana with his cross. I mean, I mean, it was just an incredible experience.
I'm,
And
I'm,
then
I'm
and
imagining
then
you as a lineman up on the pole, but that's not what you were doing.
Hey, man, it was fun. It was fun. But at the same time, there was some heartbreaking stuff. I mean, they asked me to cut my staff, but I had 75 people working for me. But they asked me to, because of the breakup of AT&T, I had to cut my staff by half, and do the same work. So it's not like it's all fun and games. None of this is, but it's learning how to manage. It learns how to manage under uncertainty. You know, it learns you learn how to manage through uh, uh, hard times. As well as the good times.
How did
And
yeah,
yeah,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to how you ended up? How did you end up in South Carolina?
Yeah, because that's why I asked you how much time do you have. I was doing. I was help. I had about you can I can I'll put this on my website. I don't know how many people want to know all about this stuff, but um, there were two steps really. Um, I was doing very well in the technology space. One of the board members of the Boston Public Library asked me to be interview for the position as CFO, and they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. And that took me to Boston. I met my wife. We were going to leave after I got married, and then John Hancock asked me to stay. So I was the CFO of the Boston Public Library, CFO, and then worked with the turnaround of John Hancock. And we were going back and forth to South Carolina. She was teaching through Wheelock College, had a, 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 outpost there at the Marine Corps Air Station in Beaufort. And he said, "Well, let's move and to South Carolina." And I was supposed to be the CFO of Allen University. I'm a turnaround. I was a turnaround guy in the Bay Area, and I said, "Hey, they're struggling. They've got some accreditation issues. Let's do that." But at the 11th hour, the president, Dr. Young at Allen, said, "Bruce, with your background, you really need to be in the classroom. The kids need to be exposed to who you are and what you do." And I'm saying, "Hey, if you're going to pay me the same amount of money, I'll do that." And so we came. She didn't have a job, as you may or may not know the story, but I'll tell you the story. My wife, I like education. I like scholarship, and I've got some real accolades in that area. But she's the real deal. And when they found out, they gave her a little piece of a job when she came. But when they found out who she really was, ultimately they moved her up to be the president of Allen University. And then the rest is history. I mean, people know us across the state in various um, roles. In some cases, I'm the traveling spouse. In other cases, she's the traveling spouse. But we've been active in the Democratic Party since we got here. I've been active in civic duties since we got here. I was Richland County Airport Commissioner. I served as the state chair of the Sierra Club. So, and I'm currently serving on boards now. We started a think tank called the Greener Institute when I was teaching at USC. We've been active socially for the community or civically, I should say. And so this particular position as comptroller, brings a lot in my life, a lot of my career to bear. And it's one of those moments when things just come together, and it's aha, this is what I was called to do.
So I don't know if the airport commissioner job was a political appointment. That may,
No,
it may throw.
you call it political. I mean, there's no politics. There's little politics at local level, So,
But
no,
where
it
I'm going
wasn't.
with it is that may be your first actual political job. Because I was going to say, is this election toward comptroller going to be your first political job?
Um, yes and no. I mean, it depends on what you mean by political.
An elected
I'm not a
office,
bit.
elected or
I'm not.
appointed office.
I'm not really political guy, but I'm learning.
I'm,
I mean, I'm definitely
I'm
learning.
smiling. I'm chuckling because in order to be elected today, you have to say you're not political. You're not a political person. That's just table
Yeah.
stakes in any election these days. But
Right.
yeah, so I'm not really getting at, is this a political thing for you? Is it a public service office? Is it your first elected office that you're going for?
Yes and no. Yes, because I'm actually running statewide and running in the public. No, because when I was I was living in Palo Alto. There was an office for the 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 the, the Palo Alto Cable Cooperative. We had 80,000 cooperative folks, and we had to, run for office. Well, you don't know necessarily, but I ran for the Public Service Commission office for District 2. And that was, it was just within the assembly, state assembly. And
In
so
South Carolina
I've
or
had some
California?
for South Carolina.
Okay.
That created an anomaly. Obviously, people knew that I was the best person for the job, but because it was predominantly Republican, they decided at the last minute, at the time of the vote, they decided to postpone the vote to 6 months later.
Ooh.
Hoping that I would back out, and actually that's what I did. So they won on that account. Yes.
Okay.
So yes and no. This is the first real, going out and stumping and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first big time politics for you.
Yeah.
You've been involved. Have you always been involved in Democratic politics? Because as you were reviewing your career, it was mostly business and stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all about public service. So politics is one thing, but my mom really gave us the vision. My brother and I. She marched with Dr. King in Washington D.C. the Great March, and she was always, she was secretary of the NAACP and that sort of thing, and she did something that I thought was truly amazing. I didn't fully understand it, but every year she would have host a big party fundraiser for Chris Smith in New Jersey. And Chris Smith at the time was the most right wing Republican in Congress at the time. I mean, he defined conservatism, and literally, I mean, he was the guy. And I was saying, wow, Mom, you're a Democrat. Why are you doing this? So I've always had politics, in my life, and public service in my life. In New Jersey, politics is a blood sport. I mean, we've got so many dimensions to that, and that's where I learned that nobody's really clean. I mean, I think last year they arrested 12 people who were politicians in one fell swoop. I mean, there was even a rabbi in there. I mean, it was incredible. How corrupt folks can be. So I take nothing for granted. But I enjoy competing. I played basketball in high school and college, and with some of the best. We were all state competitors at my high school, and so I like to mix it up, and I like people, and through sports, baseball, and the like, and certainly basketball, I like playing team games, and politics should be a team game. How do we win? But I see a lack of strategy, and strategy is one of my strong suits. I've got a lot. If you go through all of my education, you'll see a constant thread of uh, strategy, uh, trying to understand and develop new frameworks for winning, however you define winning. For how do you achieve those objectives?
So what is your strategy for winning this election?
For now, I can't reveal any of my whole cards now, but for
Well,
now,
they're
I just
starting to
want
vote
people.
tomorrow, so you don't have too much more
I,
time.
I, I want people to get to know me, know who I am, and know that I'm the real deal, and know what skills I bring to the table. Not only from a public service perspective, but also from a technical perspective. Because we need both in this case. Not only to do the job, but to clean up, to continue the cleanup. I think Mr. Gaines has done a great job. I mean, you go to the website and you see his accountability documentation and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, there's so many holes there in terms of, I mean, people can't read the stuff. They can't manipulate the stuff, just like they can't manipulate our financial statements that we put out.
So
They don't
he's
know how we're doing.
he's the current comptroller general. He's a Democrat. He was
Yeah,
appointed by Governor McMaster, a Republican, to
right,
fix as much as he could the mess that we gotten into with that multi-billion-dollar accounting error. And he
right.
doesn't and
Well,
he doesn't want to run again, so he doesn't want to run at all.
yeah, 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 yeah. I reached out to him, try to, have as I did with Tiffany. Tiffany and I have had lunch, and wanted to find out, just what his view of the world is. But he hasn't gotten back to me, and I don't, no harm, no foul. I know that at this point he's got to be in Tiffany's corner, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think there needs to be a culture of public value creation. I think right now that's just not there. It's all about compliance, and that's leading us absolutely nowhere. It's leading us to this
To
complacency,
where we are
and then
now.
when something bad happens, that's when you get excited or whatnot.
Yeah.
We need to have our eye on the ball throughout the whole process.
Well, if your strategy is for people to be able to get to know you, I am hoping that in this past hour that we've been talking, that we have accomplished some of that for you.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity,
Yeah.
Gary.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that's, burn an issue in the back of your mind that you say, well, Gary never asked me about this. Well, bring it up now or forever hold your peace.
One of the things that I will be looking to you all up in New York County to do is to work with us, assuming I get the position. Well, even if I don't, actually, because I think I'm onto something. With this training folks in civics, because helping on people to understand um, how to interpret our financials, making our financials more readable and understandable. I think those are things that we need to do at a grassroots level. And so I'll be reaching out to you afterwards, and hopefully to uh, use your network to find the folks that we can continue this effort with.
And you probably wouldn't mind getting some campaign workers from up here. What's the best way to find you and volunteer? On your website?
Yeah, yeah, coforsc.com. If you want to donate, I'll definitely take all takers, even $5. You know how this thing goes.
Yeah.
But more than that, I'd love to engage folks if they want to reach out to me. My contact information is on there as well.
All right. It has been great getting to know you. It is Bruce Cole, candidate for South Carolina Comptroller. And again, the civics lesson is you are in the June 9th primary. Doesn't matter
My
what
birthday, by the way.
I'm sorry?
That's my birthday, by the way.
Oh, well, happy birthday early. And maybe that will be a
Give me
birthday
a
present for you.
present, please.
Yes. Doesn't matter what the Republicans do with redistricting and their shenanigans on adding a second primary for the congressional candidates. It does not affect you. Your early voting starts tomorrow for you, May 26th. And the actual election day is June 9th. There's only 2 of you in the race. One of you will win the primary. You will not be part of a runoff. And one of you will end up carrying the Democratic banner into the election on November 3rd. So thank you very much for meeting with us here on York County Democratic Party YCDP TV. And we will see all of you out there in politics land on our next show. Thank you, Bruce.
Take care.
Over and out, everybody.